Join us now, ladies and gentlemen.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Inside Baseball. Today is July 25th, 2017. It's payday. Michael Cucek, you're joining me today, once again.
Well, it is payday. It's the 25th, and I'm looking forward to going to the bank. But
Michael, the LDP just got smeared again. Up in Sendai, they lost a mayoral election to the, used to be, of the Democratic Party of Japan, but to the Democratic Party.
Yeah, well, they smeared, it depends on how you define smear, but they lost.
They lost. It wasn't, you're right. According to the votes, it wasn't a tremendous loss, but it's win or loser.
Yeah, that's right. And in the case of the DP, the Democratic Party, any win is a fantastic victory for them because they've been down for so long.
Right.
And here they had a former member of the Diet running for the mayor's seat in the city of Sendai against an LDP, Komeito, and the tiny Kokoro Party joint candidate, a non-politician. And this was in a field of four where the other two persons running were also former members of the House of Representatives. So it was a star-studded field, and when you have that kind of competition and you're able to prevail over the LDP's machine and the Komeito's very, very dedicated voters, that's a win. That's a solid win.
Right. And this is critical for us to examine today because it comes on the heels of the Koike election victory for the metropolitan government just a couple of weeks ago and the plummeting cabinet ratings for the current prime minister.
Well, the cabinet ratings are playing off all of the different political losses that have been happening, and they're just bouncing downward really fast.
We're waiting. He's waiting for this reset, and it's not resetting. The tumbling just continues.
Continues down. And I was passing around on Twitter an image that someone had created of a bouncing downward Abe graphic. It's just it's been very strange after all these years of stability. And it's been, if you look at the popularity ratings, it's been really boring. None of the ups and downs, even of the Koizumi era. Right. It's been basically a very narrow band that he's been working in. Suddenly, we're plummeting. And so on what happened on Sunday was normally a minor election.
Right. It wasn't even on our radar. We thought probably the LDP,
Yokohama election, which is coming up this Sunday, it would be the big one. But the Sendai election has come in and added to this political narrative of LDP in trouble because Abe's got them there. And it has a tremendous impact to the upcoming election here in Yokohama, which is a big deal for us. You know, it's a big deal in that if indeed, by some weird stroke of luck, the current mayor is not reelected. I mean, she's got a great deal of momentum, a great deal of energy, but she is supported by the LDP and the Komeito. Whether there's going to be some kind of backlash.
And there could be. We still have it's a week away.
It's a week away. And we have, most dramatically this week, yesterday and today as we're speaking, Mr. Abe is giving testimony in the Diet about his friendship with Kake of Kake Gakuen and what, if anything, he did as favors to Mr. Kake in order to get this veterinary college built.
Right.
And the testimony yesterday was the same pattern that we've been seeing. Deny, I did nothing, nobody did anything, there was nothing that happened. And at the same time, the previous narratives, you know, these documents that have been leaked, they're not real documents. Yesterday in Diet testimony, finally the education minister said, yes, they're real documents of the Ed Ministry. Right. They really existed. And it's just eroding away whatever you know, stonewalling that Abe is doing. It's just not helping. And I haven't seen today's testimony. I've been watching right now. I'm obviously not watching it right now, but it's just not helping him.
Right.
And so if there's some kind of loss in the Yokohama election, then we're talking about a seriously depleted narrative.
Right. Michael, since this is inside baseball, and I know a lot of our viewers like it when we kind of go into the intricacies, let's talk a little bit about this loaded deck that the Prime Minister says, yeah, sure, I'll testify. You guys shut up. I'll testify, but here's how the deck looks. I get this much time, you guys get this much time. There was a lot of horse trading, and then he agreed to show up on...
They said things like Kake himself will not testify. Abe Akie, the Prime Minister's wife, will not testify.
He doesn't have to testify. He did it as a concession to kind of quell things, but it was a lot of horse trading that goes on for the Prime Minister to actually agree to show up.
Oh, yeah, they did a lot of horse trading, and they did it from a position of strength, though.
Right.
That's the thing. They have 2/3 majorities in both houses. They can shut this thing down if they wanted to. Sure, but it's an
acknowledgement that he's fighting a rearguard action. Right?
And when you get into that position and you've already massaged the process to the point where you've set up a whole bunch of fences.
Sure.
You've gamed it. You've set up fences. What I will not talk about. Right. Who will talk? How much time? And you still blow it. Then you are really showing that you are in a position of weakness. And I think he showed that yesterday when he said, the first I heard of this story was in January.
January 20th.
Of this year. This has been a complete mystery to me. And there's a wonderful institution in Japanese public life, which is that the Prime Minister's schedule is published, in the newspaper every day. So the newspaper reporters and everybody else who has access to databases just looked back through the calendar to the first day of this most recent administration. And they found that between that day and December of last year, he met with Kake either on the golf course or at dinner, lunches, dinners, 15 times. And in those 15 times, including once in December of 2016, he never discussed any business.
Yeah.
One thing you can't do is tell the voters and tell the press, I know you're stupid.
Right.
You'll buy my story.
Well, this is the reason for his plummeting popularity. I mean, we triggered on that last week where it was the confidence in him, his trustability, how much people believe in what it is that he says.
Right, and they don't believe in what he says. And you are compounding it when you say, I want you to believe a news story that is fundamentally unbelievable. They have pictures, photographs of him together on their Facebook page, right? With the Abe Akie's Facebook page. That famous wine glass, I got mine looks on both of their faces. Yeah, they got theirs. Well, now they're getting it.
Right.
And still, try to believe this unbelievable story because it's coming from me. And it's all within this special framework that I've set up so that I really don't have to answer serious questions.
Right.
It's not going to fly. Maybe he'll pull it off today. Maybe he'll do a Houdini act and get out of it all. But I'm not confident.
In the meantime, there are other things going on the sidelines. For example, Foreign Minister Kishida. He's in the press quite a bit these days.
Right.
He's polishing off his fingernails.
Yeah, and the foreign media is starting to glom onto it and grab onto this story that there is an alternative.
And he's looking very polished. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and he from way back you could tell that he was positioning himself. His website is sterling. I mean, there are all kinds of different websites that different politicians have. His is top-notch, real professional, really good.
Are you moonlighting on me?
He has publications. He has a magazine, a printed magazine of himself.
Right.
The promo is well underway.
Right.
But also, as we discussed last time, he has this now very, very interesting pivot point by being inside the cabinet, but he had to be sort of begged by Abe to stay in.
Right.
So that he still has a great deal of movement and leverage within the cabinet so that he doesn't get touched by the scandals. And seems like Mr. Clean, Mr. Serious, Mr. Sober, after the wild nights of Mr. Abe, I guess. But the thing is that he's not the only one pulling away. I mean, we have the usual critic like Murakami Seiichiro, who has been down on Abe ever since the security legislation. He said over the weekend, same party. Now we're seeing the rust
Yeah.
leaking out of his body.
You should have listened to me earlier.
Yes, you'd have listened to me, you would have
Right.
known. And
Right.
the Ishiba faction is absolutely, completely furious at the main party because in order to shore up spirits, they circulated Sankei Shinbun material, which contained false accusations against Ishiba personally. Saying that, well, whatever the prime minister has done, Ishiba has done far worse. And the Ishiba faction gets this in their email because it was sent to every party member. It was supposed to be a pro-Abe move by the party central, but instead they've got, you've got this unsubstantiated allegation, which of course Ishiba denies, and you're starting to see the pieces fall out, and it's like the scene at the end of Tenku no Shiro, where all the pieces of the city fall down into the ocean. This is what's happening. You can see that.
No, you can.
It's just, and it's so fast. The Mainichi poll over the weekend, with the 26% support rating, was a devastating blow. Now, of course, Mainichi is famously anti-Abe, but even the famously right-wing Fuji poll found a 13-point drop in support it's a monthly in this case. The Fuji TV Sankei Shinbun poll from last month to this month, 13 points down. So it's really looking very, 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 very tense for him. And it's true that historically, once you start to get into 30%, you don't come out.
You know, we have a really active following. I really appreciate everybody contributing to the dialogues that we have under the YouTube videos. And people are so interested in who is in position to take over after Abe. And I think everybody kind of senses that the end is drawing close. If he doesn't pull out of this nosedive, it's going to happen within the next couple of months. But in any event, within the next couple of weeks, he's going to clean up the cabinet. And the interesting part there is with potentially number one forerunner, it is Mr. Kishida. They're saying he's solid. He's going to be in the cabinet. We don't want him out gallivanting around the country.
Yeah, and the fact that they admit that they don't want him gallivanting around the country shows how weak their position is. That we know that Inada will be outside the cabinet. Whether Inada will be in some ways brought up for perjury is a huge issue now, because since the last time we spoke, all kinds of revelations have come out about her diet testimony
in the Sudan,
about the South Sudan dispatch, and that she knew well in advance that there would be that the various parts of the self-defense forces would be in fact erasing records that they should be providing to the diet, and that she signed off on this erasure, has been just a bombshell out of a series of bombshells that have exploded.
And she was getting it 1, 2, 3 punches. I mean, every day something new was coming up.
And then the thing is that you knew this was coming for her. She was appointed to a position where she had no experience. Her only qualification was her loyalty to Mr. Abe and, of course, her right-wing politics. So that's 2 qualifications, I guess. Those are not enough. You needed someone with some kind of experience, especially since you were going to be discussing why is Japan reversing itself and taking it out of the last peacekeeping operation that it's in. Japan has had basically a continuous presence in UN peacekeeping operations since the time that it joined the Cambodia PKO back in 1993. And back then, it had the Golan Heights for a very, very long time. It was a very minor one, but that kept the continuity going. But that was stopped, and only the South Sudan existed. And then suddenly, they pull out. Because, why? They don't give a reason. Well, of course they had a reason. The reason was, as the logs would have shown, that they were in a civil war situation.
They were in harm's way.
They were in harm's way, which under the legislation they had been sent, requires them to be withdrawn.
And isn't it possible that there could have been some of the soldiers that have been killed?
Yeah, but they weren't. But under the legislation that they had been dispatched under, if they were in a resumption of a civil war, they had to come back. Well, they were, They covered that up. When the Diet found that they'd covered it up, they asked for the documents. They got all kinds of those blacked out documents, which insulted the Diet even more. And now they've come out with all this garbage has been coming out regarding this. Whereas they should have been just honest, go in, say, okay, they're in a civil war situation, they have to be withdrawn, we have to change the legislation. Mm-hmm. That would have been the honest thing. And that's the kind of thing that Murakami Seiichiro and other very quiet critics in the LDP, he's the only one who's been upfront saying, do it by the book. Mm-hmm. Don't try to cut corners, don't cheat. The Kakegakuen story is about cutting corners. The South Sudan story is about cutting corners. It's this corner cutting to get things done kind of attitude, which a lot of people saw as one of the great things about.
Because we can.
But it's also one of the things they saw as great about Abe, that he would be willing to make things happen. It's coming home to rest. I mean, to roost, not rest. But it's coming home to roost now. All this corner cutting. And the public doesn't buy the story anymore.
Okay, so this session that we're filming now will be uploaded tomorrow, Wednesday, and then we've got a couple of days before the election in Yokohama. If the LDP loses in Yokohama, and it's not a high probability that they will, but who knows? A lot can happen.
With an energized with the floating voters,
and with the blood in the water.
With blood in the water, the people
up for grabs
are very fast. When they sense that the power shift has happened, just like the Komeito, they certainly move. And you're right.
So how devastating would this be for the LDP? Or
it would be hard to say until maybe August. In August, there is the gubernatorial election in Ibaraki Prefecture, where I think the current incumbent LDP-supported incumbent will be trying for his 7th term or something like that.
Okay, in Sendai, the incumbent gave it up. She had a 4-year term.
That's right.
They can't succeed themselves after
that's right.
one term?
The LDP's own personal candidate that was there, a woman, maybe in Sendai they want to have a woman as the mayor, and that was the reason why they did not choose the LDP's candidate, a man. We're going to see whether continuity matters, whether that is effective or not in the Ibaraki Prefecture election. If a sitting incumbent is defeated, both in the mayor's election in Yokohama and then the next month in Ibaraki, wow, September is going to be ugly.
It's going to be a eventful fall.
Yeah, I mean, because he'll be coming in, he'll be, at some point in this process, he's going to announce a new lineup for the cabinet. And if he's got a narrative going that he's going downhill, and it's going to look, the combined of all those elements, including the cabinet reshuffle, which is supposed to re-energize the people's interest, if it doesn't, wow, we're talking
just to tee it
up, very,
up,
very tough fight.
The sequence right now is there will be a cabinet reshuffle, and then there will be Obon, and then the Diet will be reconvened in September. Right?
Well, the extraordinary Diet session is always up for grabs. They're able to push it off or not even have it. We had the year in the Abe term where we had no extraordinary Diet session. That which is a very rare occurrence. There are some matters having to do with the budget that they do want to deal with, and there was also supposed to be discussion, the preliminary discussions in regards to the functions of abdication, possibly the discussion of the casino bills, ancillary bills that are required to make the vote of last year fully functional. Those are all in the docket, but if you're going to go in and you're going to go in a weak position, maybe not open the Diet at all and wait for the regular session in January might be it's an emergency, and it clearly is a red flag, if maybe a white flag of surrender, but it's a possibility.
Right. The election in Sendai reveals that the LDP is not very much on a roll. We've got another election coming up next week. Stay tuned. We're going to be following this carefully. It portends the future.
He who breaks the rules goes back to the house of pain.